People say, hey, it's fun to hate Muslims. It's fun to think they're hiding under every table. Okay, but the government, even if you believe that, is bringing in record numbers to the West, okay? I don't think they're bad people. I'm not buying that propaganda. My point is that if you know about British intelligence radicalizing the Wahhabists and using them to create Saudi Arabia, if you know about every time these Arabic-speaking nations that are always been highly advanced in their city-state areas, you know, inventing mathematics, you name it, tries to build up a civilization on par with the West, they just send in the jihadis. They've been doing it for 100 years. And we're seeing it right now, again, in the Balkans. We're seeing it right now. People say, well, you're for the Serbs. No, I'm not for the Serbs. I'm not for the Muslims. I'm for whoever the globalists are attacking. And they'll play Christians off against Muslims. Then they'll play Muslims, you know, off against the Russians. They'll play... This just goes on and on. And think about what a master skeleton key Al-Qaeda is. They create it because the real Taliban had cut opium production down to nothing. They blow up the World Trade Centers, blame it on Al-Qaeda, create this narrative, set up some hijackers that were really taking part in drills. We know that. They just set them up. At the topless bars, drinking liquor, you know, all of it. Mossad, FBI following them, all part of the drill. They set up guys. Now it's going to be harder because people understand this. Just like 7/7, it's the same story over and over again. And again, it's criminal elements, globalists that want to bring in the national security state, shut down free speech, bankrupt the country, have the military-industrial complex gobble up the U.S. as they've done the rest of the world. And then meanwhile, the average soldier going off to die thinks they're fighting Al-Qaeda as the globalists race to replace them with robots and drones. Soon you won't even be in the equation. Your death benefits are stolen. You're treated like crud. Record suicides. You know, we had corrupt good old boys 50 years ago, but they didn't have troops serve 7-8 tours. And then they say, you're the new enemy. Now they're flipping from Al-Qaeda to domestic groups. They're getting ready to stage terror attacks and blame it on constitutionalists. You think they hate independent Arab countries or Muslim nations? They really hated independent America. They hate anybody that doesn't want to get rid of the family and take the eugenics and be part of this. We're going to go back to Sibel Edmonds here in just a moment. The point is that when you see something of this magnitude, and she's on record, she testified to Congress. It's on record. I've confirmed from countless sources what she's saying. It's all come out now. The troops started going, I don't want to grow the opium, so they just hide it in plain view on the news. Yeah, we grow it. It's patriotic. And the troops think, well, it must not be bad. It's on Fox and CNN that we grow the opium and load it on C-130s. When they took over Afghanistan, they put conscripts in the front lines to be killed as theater. The Taliban and Al-Qaeda were just waiting to be put on C-130s and flown to Pakistan and paid in gold bars, BBC reported, to start the next phase. Al-Qaeda's made up. And now you have the TSA taking over. Now you have total federalization, the drones. And they're saying, oh, yeah, the new threat is patriots. I told you that was coming. They always get rid of the rights on an unpopular minority. They're following an exact program. Now, going back to Sibel Edmonds, I want to try to give you the floor now because I can hear, I've heard you a lot of times on the radio, you're very, very focused and calm. I can tell you're emotional today because I must have gotten you fired up. Tell us, again, more about what your book covers. If they were sitting on it for a year threatening people, how did you finally get it published? Tell folks where they can get it. But then go through, for people that don't know, the type of communiques you read, what you saw, because when you finally broke your gag order, they didn't persecute you like they've done others because they don't want to bring attention to this. You've got a lot of courage. Because they've killed others that have tried to do what you're doing. I want you to speak about that if you've had threats or things like that. But I want you, Sibel Edmonds, to biggest whistleblower in 9/11, maybe in U.S. history. I mean, she makes the Pentagon Papers look like a joke. And we've had the Pentagon Papers guy on, and he said 9/11 was an inside job, and then said, change that, I'm getting heat, reverse that, I want to go back, but that's a side issue. Sibel, again, tell us the rest of the meat, because you said 2 years ago when you broke your gag order that you were able to see the communiques with Al-Qaeda being commanded by the CIA right up to 9/11. Tell us what you saw.
Well, Alex, it's very hard to give sound bites because one of the things that media does, they never provide people with context. And that's why I wanted to write this book and I wanted to put it out. Give people the context, the details. Give for over a year, government has been, right now, I'm under this threat. These are official letters. It's on my website, in my attorney's, on my attorney's website. They said I'm going to face prosecution if I publish this book. Okay? I said I am going to do it under my First Amendment, and I'm going to stand up for my First Amendment. And the big publishers, the mega corporate publishers, they didn't want to touch it. They said they didn't want to get on the wrong side of the FBI. I said, fine, I will publish it myself. I went and I hired my own editors, my own, people to help me with the cover of the book. Everything in this book, I did it. You know why? Because those publishers, unless it is kosher by the government and considered kosher, a lot of CIA whistleblower books are coming out. They're not whistleblower books. They are actually sanctioned by the agency.
They're whitewashes to act like it's a whistleblower to sell false narratives because people only believe the cognitive dissonance when it poses as a whistleblower, and Cass Sunstein at the White House admits that's part of a strategic program.
Absolutely, Alex. Absolutely. Anyone who says otherwise, I will line up people. My organization has 150 national security whistleblowers, especially with the CIA. The CIA doesn't want your book to get out. It won't come out. Guaranteed. Or you're going to be jailed, okay? And then they're going to do what they did with Colonel Schaefer. They're going to reenact Fahrenheit 451. They're going to take these books. They're going to burn them. That's what we are doing. That's what our government has been doing. So I challenging that, standing up for my country.
All right, I want to stop you right there because this is so amazing. We're going to have an in-depth hour-plus interview tomorrow on the Nightly News, commercial-free, but I always start a story and never finish it. I started the interview by saying I lost 70+% of my stations. I went through hell for exposing 9/11 as an inside job, death threats, you name it, but nothing compared to you. They're threatening you with prison publicly after 10 years of you trying to expose this evil. If you publish this book, and you've done it, and I just cannot say with enough words how much courage that you've got, but I wish more men were like you.
Alex, because there are so few of us who are becoming whistleblowers and doing this, they are getting away with so much of this because they intimidate people. I tell people, imagine with the torture cases, if we had 30 CIA officers, most of them are dirty people anyway, but let's say they walked out and they said, we quit, this is despicable, and they went to the media. They wouldn't even call them whistleblowers. The problem is we have become exception to the rule, okay? So therefore they can finger point and say they must be nutcases, they are eccentric, they are disgruntled employees. The media, they make sure they don't cover the case, so they get away. But we need the numbers. There must be other people I know from the FBI, so many people, good agents, wanted to do the same thing, but they were afraid. They were afraid they were going to lose their pension. They were afraid because they had...
Hey, they've tried to destroy Schaefer.
They wanted retirement.
They've tried to destroy Schaefer, and he hasn't gone half as far as you have. But last time he was on, he just went ahead and blurted it out. He goes, yeah, this guy and that guy, and most of them actually are working for the government, these Al-Qaeda people. And then he kind of, took a deep breath because he realizes what he and his family are facing. And he was the guy who could have killed bin Laden, but was told, don't. This is such powerful information that, but I've noticed, Sibel, you've pulled back a little bit because you did come out 2 years ago and say that, yeah, bin Laden was under CIA command.
And guess what? Again, this went completely underreported. And you know how I mentioned about my naive stage? This was not only with government and Congress and the courts. I did what many whistleblowers do. There's this whole non-profit industrial complex. They call themselves whistleblower organizations. You think they are there to help you. You go get to know what's going on with these people. You say, wait a second. For example, why would Rockefeller, Soros, and Carnegie's give each organization $4 million a year? Why? Why do they care for whistleblowers? Are you kidding me? Do they have such great hearts? So they are funding them because that becomes another layer. This is the so-called non-governmental, even though they are in some ways governmental. They're under the same shadow government, to go and actually dissuade whistleblowers from putting their story forward. They actually try to manage and censure whistleblowers, and they are part of this whole game, this non-profit industrial complex. Go look at the fundings. Why in the world Rockefeller wants to protect whistleblower? Ask yourself. The critical thinking that people need to engage in. And the same thing with this book. I put all the stuff a nonprofit industrial complex. It is from the beginning to the end. Book part 1. Book part 2, Alex, that book, hopefully, if this is successful, that book will come out. It is going to be a fiction, because with fiction, I'm not obligated to submit it to the FBI. And I'm going to tell people, here's my fiction, you go read and draw your own conclusion. Because what you've been hearing from the government is fiction. Therefore, if you put out a fiction that contradicts government fiction, then what would you call that? And that's why I wrote this part 1. This gives the context from the beginning to the end as a whistleblower, as what's happening to our nation. We have become a police state. A lot of people, they say, oh, we are descending towards police states. We are moving towards... I keep asking them, why do you say we are moving, as if we haven't gotten there yet?
No. The media puts that in their mind. Oh, we're moving towards one with re-education camps and NDAA and street lamps that listen to you and watch you and citizen spies and government.
That's why my website's name is Boiling Frogs. They are raising the temperature 1 degree at a time, and people have gotten used to it. They go like cattle. We go through those security lines. We spread our legs. We just open it up and we say, give it to us. That's what we have become as a nation. We have been losing our dignity, our liberties, and, we have become nothing. And unless we stand up and say, no, they're doing it with our tax money, and we are afraid of people that we actually sustain. That's ludicrous, Alex. It's ludicrous. And they think, oh, police state is going to be this really separate state that if we enter that stage at a state, everybody's going to know we are police state. People, they think I'm being dramatic saying police state. Then your First Amendment is taken away, which has been. Look at all these whistleblowers who are going to jail.
Sibel, look at how they're announcing they're going to shut down freedom on the web, how they're going to, again, have streetlights watching and listening to you, drones. They've got the repair people watching Alex? You.
There were websites and there were groups that were kind of cheering for me. After Obama got elected, I have become now their enemies. They have been slandering my name, saying, why don't you just limit it to George W. Bush and leave Obama out of it? As whistleblower, as a director of National Security Whistleblowers Coalition, I've been saying Bush was bad. This guy is terrible. Even with that horrible George W. Bush, we didn't have a single whistleblower prosecuted. Just take a look at what this man has been doing. We have had 7 government whistleblowers are being prosecuted.
For exposing government crime,
correct,
which is the height of corruption. And again, Bush didn't persecute whistleblowers, not because he was a nice guy. He knew he couldn't get away with it.
Exactly.
But in comes Obama, and I've seen him on the news go, good, you expose corruption? Democrats are like, send him to jail, as if Obama is the government, and as if, because they support him, now they're part of the winning team.
You got it, Alex. And guess what else they did? This liberal organizations, the ones that are funded by Soros, they gave Obama last year Transparency Award. And the meeting, the award was classified. They made sure it was secret, the ceremony. They gave this
That's right. The award ceremony for transparency was secret as a sick joke. He has the most secret. He said he wouldn't have signing statements, signs the most. Said he would give you 5 days for people to read the bills, accelerates it secretly through. Says he isn't for NDAA. Turns out he demanded it.
Right.
Says he won't sign it so people don't have opposition to it, then does sign it. I mean, total deception, showing there are no two parties at the top. We have been hijacked by Goldman Sachs.